2022 saw the 10th anniversary running of the US Grand Prix, and the Circuit of the Americas served up a classic, a phenomenal race from the front of the field to the back. Overtaking moves galore, pit stop mistakes, and through it all, Max Verstappen, having looked like he'd lost his chance of the win, blasted through the field to deny Lewis Hamilton victory on a circuit which he has excelled. Max Verstappen equals the all-time win record for a Formula One season today, his 13th win of 2022. How many will he make it before the end of this Formula One World Championship season? Hello folks, welcome to F1 Live, your post-race show with me, Will Buxton. I'm delighted to be joined by Jodin Palmer, James Hinchcliffe, and guys, that was a hell of a race.
I loved it. It was really good, wasn't it? I mean, we have to thank Red Bull, I think, for not doing a great job in the pits for once with Max, which really spiced up the race for the win. Then Charles had a great drive in the Ferrari. Anyone could have won it in the end, and then it was the guy that usually does win. But it was still kept us on the edge of our seats.
James, how much did you enjoy it?
I mean, it was incredible. You're right. I mean, that pit stop is really what set up that battle for the win. But there were battles all up and down, you know, the racetrack. I look at the second half of the top 10. There are so many great stories. It's not just, oh yeah, I finished 6th, I finished 8th. How they got there and the stories about it were great.
Well, you say that, and a shining, towering example of that is Kevin Magnussen, P18 on lap 1, and very nearly P8 at the end, P9 ultimately for you today. A phenomenal drive, a phenomenal fight to the end as well. Talk us through what was a pretty wild day for you.
Yeah, it was a wild day. Yeah, on turn 1, you know, lap 1, just got boxed in. I think the Ferrari, somebody spun in front of him and he had to stop, and I was boxed in behind him, so I just was last after that, basically. So, yeah, crazy few things happened after that. You know, the crash on the back straight with the safety car that then kind of helped us. And then pulled off for one stop, which was pretty unexpected.
How much were the tyres screaming towards the end?
Just the last 3 laps, they were done.
And that's when Seb caught up with you. We can see the battle. It was a great fight.
We
don't have to if you don't want to.
It was a good fight.
It was a good fight. It was. I mean, it was fun to watch.
He did an amazing job. I mean, he showed why he's a 4-time world champion. So big respect to him. Of course, I'm pissed off, but
yeah, sorry we had to show you that. But a brilliant race for you guys today. How important is this for Haas getting back into the points?
Very important. You know, we're in a very tight battle with AlphaTauri for 8th, and we really need to hang on to that 8th position. And these 2 points made a big difference. Of course, there's 3 races to go. Anything can happen, but it's very important, and I'm super proud of them. You know, it's we don't have the fastest car at the moment, and still we pulled this off with a great strategy that was fully down to the team's preparation and guidance that they gave me before the race. So very proud.
Brilliant job.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks
Cheers.
for coming on the show.
Cheers,
He drove beautifully today, didn't he? As he said, P18, get your head down, one-stop strategy, make it work.
Such a great drive, yeah. Really great drive. Just kept going on and on. We didn't know if he was going to make another pit stop, but actually kept the tyres in. Great nick. Always fights to the death, doesn't he, in the end for Kevin. Obviously not happy to see the 8th place slip by in the end, but, I mean, Seb deserved it as well. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean, 3 corners to go. To lose that spot's always tough, but to be the only driver to make the one-stop work, when you talked so much about tire degradation this weekend, and especially the first stint of the race, people were diving into the pits earlier than I thought they were going to. I think than some of them thought they were going to. The fact that he pulled that off, very, very heads-up driving, tire management, but also some just really good moves on track.
I've got to say, looking at the drivers coming through and walking to the media pen, they all look exhausted, like Singapore exhausted.
They do, don't they? They look absolutely shattered.
Yeah.
I can't overstate how tricky the conditions were out there. The high winds. It's a really complex circuit anyway. There's track limits in play which were right on the edge for many drivers throughout. Some penalties at the end, and we know there was some final warnings. And I mean, we saw Valtteri have a spin off. We saw Latifi have a spin early on. Really high-level drivers were making simple mistakes because the conditions were so tough. And on top of that, it's hot, it's bumpy here. It was really, really challenging.
I mean, how many times did we hear radio transmissions from Max Verstappen in the best car talking about how tricky the conditions were? I think it just highlights how difficult it was.
Yeah, and some amazing drives, the length and breadth of the field today. Obviously, for those who are just tuning in, Verstappen winner, Hamilton 2nd, Leclerc P3, Perez 4th, Russell 5th. Then I think for me it gets really, really interesting. Norris P6, a very busy race for him. Alonso 7th. somehow, after surviving what could have been a plane crash of an accident on that back straightaway, which we'll have analysis on that coming up later. Vettel with another drive that rolled back the years in P8. Magnussen, brilliant. Tsunoda, 10th. Albon somehow missing out on the points on 12th that he sat in all day. There were some great stories, some great drives. You know, really the length and breadth of the field. Who stood out for you today, Hinch?
I mean, I got to go with Seb. I got to go with the fan vote. They vote him the drive of the day, and I thought it was incredible. And it was right from lights out. His start was the best start. It was all kind of lost in the fact that the Ferrari went around. Poor Carlos. I do feel very bad for him and the Ferrari team, but the launch off the line was great. He kind of capitalized being on the outside of that kind of boxed-in situation that happened with Carlos going around, having the pit stop problem, and then fighting back. I think he was 12th after that problem, getting all the way back to another spot on the last lap, back in the points for Aston Martin. That was a brilliant drive.
They were good, weren't they, Aston Martin? It just really almost looked like getting towards front runners at times in the race. I think Fernando, I mean, how he even stayed in the race, let alone coming from the back to get some more points again. He was quicker than Esteban the whole day. I don't know what damage he had on his car. The wing mirror flew off, but I'm sure there must have been a lot more on there. Amazing recovery from him and good pace and some needed points for them.
It was a brilliant race. We did, though, as you said, with Vettel, see some problems in the pits. We also saw problems for Max Verstappen in the pits. Left front, again, we know the left front takes a pounding around here, but that was the moment that very nearly cost Max Verstappen this race.
It's very uncharacteristic, isn't it? I mean, and it's funny, I sit there and I watch F1 all the time. It always blows me away when drivers are running in a great position, first, second, third, and they'll pit right at the end to put on new tires to go for that fastest lap because they have that. What if something goes wrong? Is 1 point worth losing a podium? It happens all the time. Like, imagine that was the scenario that they, you know, with Max Verstappen in that case. Pit stops are risky, and they bit them today. Ultimately, Max in the car got through it. I liked how he got on the radio and said, oh, beautiful, just beautiful. Well, I bet he thinks the car is pretty beautiful because he managed to make up that deficit.
But you know, his pit stops this year have been on average the fastest of everyone until he wins the championship, and then he has a really, really slow pit stop, nearly cost him the race. Generally, they don't make such big mistakes, and the Red Bull crew is fantastic, but it nearly cost him today. In the end, they're good enough to survive it.
Indeed. This man, incredibly busy day.
Nice to see you. All right.
Phenomenal.
Thank you.
I mean, seriously good drive, dude.
Yeah, no, it was a tough race. Very enjoyable, I guess, you know, with the overtakes in turn one, a couple to the inside, one on the outside of Alex, and then especially my race with Fernando. Like, if there's one guy you don't want to race against with 2 laps to go, it's Fernando, you know, so... It was tough. I knew if I made one mistake, I wouldn't have had that opportunity with 2 laps to go. Like, it was on a close margin to get past, but I had to do it for our championship. We only gained 2 points. I feel like I deserve 25. But yeah, 2 points makes a difference and will help us for the rest of the season.
You talk about fighting Fernando. You had to fight through a shower of carbon fiber coming from him and from Lance down the
tried,
back.
like, you know, duck and weaving. But
is the car all right after that? Any damage to your car?
Just that fairing above the front left tire was gone.
Cheerleaders have come for you.
Interesting.
They've come to celebrate your brilliant race.
Focus.
Focus, Lando.
Fairing, damage, debris.
Damage, that's it, that's the one. Yes, it had a bit of damage. I don't think it cost us a lot. It definitely hurt us a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, I think we had to increase a bit of front wing or something. I don't know if we actually managed to do it for the final stop, but a little bit, we got lucky. I don't know if Fernando had much damage. I guess he probably had a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he did a good job. It was a well-fought race from everyone, but very happy with how things turned out.
You almost rear-ended George coming out of turn one as well. I swear you were in the wars from the first lap, fighting with Valtteri and Pierre, and then right of the way. That must have been the busiest race in terms of wheel-to-wheel action you've ever had.
When did I get close with George?
Exited turn one.
Lap
you had
one.
a good start.
Lap one.
He biffs off Sainz. He suddenly
biff off
slows and you
Sainz?
almost went into the back.
Yeah, I mean, I had to avoid Carlos, like, brake and get out the way, so I lost a few positions, but yeah, I was in the wars. I didn't have the easiest of races, but it all makes it more worthwhile. Like, you know, standing here in the end, getting the points we did on such a deserved basis. That's what makes it even more worth it and makes me even happier. So.
Yeah, the points obviously make you feel good, but how much fun was it? I mean, you were, like you said, you were in it the whole time. Some of those overtakes, I think you had 3 in a row into turn one.
I did.
3 laps
I was a
in
bit
row.
surprised. I didn't think I would get Alex in the end, especially on the outside. But you know, I had slightly better tires. I had confidence. I'd say the car doesn't fill me with confidence, but it gives me enough that I can brake late and do these overtakes. So it is fun. There's just a lot of adrenaline, a lot of focus at the same time. So I smile briefly. I look in the crowd to see the applaud that they give me. And
you're coming through turn 2, flat out.
I am. Honestly, I swear. I'm like, yeah. Just to see if the cameras are on me, and then I focus again. So, yeah, it was good fun.
You did a great job. Thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate it, mate.
Just
Brilliant
guys,
drive.
good to see you all.
Brilliant drive. Well done. A great day. And as I said, so important in that race with Alpine finishing one place above Fernando Alonso. Every point counts right now.
Yeah, in the end, they both had great drives there, didn't they? Fernando and Lando, and their teammates didn't, but there's 2 points difference today. So you do feel like after a drive like that, you feel like you've just produced some heroics. They did it in Singapore, and it was really worth something. Today, it's worth 2 points, but it's still 2 points more in their championship chase.
You just never know. You just never know. You've seen those good results where the team just hits it on one day. They can close that gap, and every point counts.
Phenomenal. So Norris P6, one place ahead of Fernando in P7. We will be looking at that incident between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll a little bit later in the show, and I'm sure having a bit of a discussion as to who we think may or may not have been to blame for that. Right now, though, I'd like to welcome another guest into the show. Hello, Eve Hewson.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you on. We know new fan of Formula One.
Massive.
But a huge fan of Formula One.
Huge. Like, I pay the $20 for the F1 TV app.
Amazing.
I don't miss a beat.
So you're used to this every week.
Oh, I know this.
Show.
Is this for like the post-race show?
Yes, this is the post-race show. Welcome
I'm
to
excited.
the post-race show. How did you find the race? Did you enjoy it?
It was amazing. So crazy. So hectic. Yeah, my grandmother texted me and she was like, oh, this is going to be a good race. She's a huge Formula One fan. So, yeah, she was right.
What's been the best part for you?
Probably hanging out with Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. I'm here with AlphaTauri. I'm wearing AlphaTauri. And we got to hang out with them all weekend. Oh, you look great.
Thanks, so do you.
We got to hang out with them all weekend, and they were like family. It was amazing. It was so cool.
Amazing. I want to talk to you very quickly about Bad Sisters.
Yes.
It's huge. It's just taken off. I loved it.
Oh,
it was amazing. How much fun was it?
So much fun. I mean, the girls are just such crack, and we just had a blast, and we're just really hoping that we get to do a season 2 so we can hang out again.
How do you make a season 2?
Oh, we could make it season 2. Sharon Horgan's so smart that I think she could make a season 2.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Boys, we have a new Formula One fan here.
Yes.
Well, I think everybody wants to know when you have a new Formula One fan, and I don't know if you alluded to it a little bit here, but who do you cheer for? Who is your driver?
AlphaTauri, obviously.
Okay, are you just saying that?
Does it extend to Red Bull out the front? Are you happy to see another Max win?
I am a huge Max Verstappen fan.
Okay.
Huge. Because I think he's the most entertaining driver out there. Let's be real.
In terms of his driving, or in
terms of
his personality?
driving. No, not his personality. He's a nice guy. Misunderstood, no? Got a bad boy image, but a soft heart.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
And what brought you in to Formula One?
It was my grandfather. My
No way.
grandfather was a huge fan, and as he was passing, he couldn't do a lot, so our family got together and started watching the Formula One. Yeah, and then we started watching Drive to Survive with him, and then it became this kind of family thing. We all get together with my grandmother every weekend as a family, and we don't miss it, and it's sort of our tribute to him. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we know Brad Pitt's here this weekend.
Yes.
And they're making a Formula One movie
They are.
with Lewis. Have you seen him? Have you had discussions? Have you
seen
seen
him.
Jerry Bruckheimer? Are you
I have
had
seen
chats?
Brad, and we have discussed.
So who are you
We
playing? Is what-
I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to keep mum. All I know is that it's going to be a great movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right. With that, we don't want to get you into any trouble, so we will let you go. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
We
Thank
really
you. It's a
appreciate it.
pleasure, honestly. Thank
No,
you so much.
pleasure's all ours.
Do I just leave now?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so
Okay,
You
here
should
you
know
go.
this. You watch this show.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very well structured. You just-
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. Right. Producers in my ear now saying, speak for yourself. It is very well structured. It's me that just makes it look like it's not. Now to the studio with Sam Collins.
Thanks, Will. It's been quite a Grand Prix, and the big moment that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about for quite a while, I think we need to take a closer look at. This is Lance Stroll's Aston Martin, and we're riding on board with the Canadian driver. And I'm just going to roll this forwards because what you know happened in the race, I just want to play forwards. Now, look here. Stroll's head moves to the left, and I believe he's looking in his left mirror just there. And as it plays forward, you can see what happens. There's a big impact on the back of the car. We know what caused that big impact. It was Fernando Alonso's Alpine moving to make an overtaking manoeuvre. Stroll, as you can see, is moving to the left of the track, trying to cover off the very fast Alpine. And the result in contact, front wheel to rear wheel, launched the Alpine very high. And you can see it if you play it forwards a little bit more, that the car just stays with its nose very high in the ground. So you can see it just sticking up like this. It's pointing upwards. And the reason for that is I've had a look at the data, and the speed of that car was 184 miles per hour as it was pointing in the sky. And if you want to know why it was pointing in the sky, well, that's the takeoff speed of a Boeing 747. It's actually faster than the takeoff speed. It's faster than the takeoff speed of something like a light aircraft, like a Cessna 172. They actually take off at about 110 miles an hour, and their surface area of the wings is about the same as the surface area of the floor on that Alpine. So an extremely scary moment for the Alpine driver and for the Aston Martin driver. But to me, it looks very much like that Lance Stroll was having a little bit of a look into his mirror, and he's been called to race control to come and explain his actions. Will, back to you in the paddock.
Thanks very much. We're just having a chat here about Sam's piece, which was very, very good. Checo liked it very much. Checo, great race today, particularly because you had half a front wing and a pretty difficult time out there, but you were pulling off some great moves.
Yeah, we gave it all. I think we were quite unlucky with the safety car, which benefited Charles, I think, at the time. And yeah, missing half of the front wing wasn't ideal. It did hurt us quite a lot, especially I think on the second stint, because once we figured out what to do with the tools and open up everything to try to get the front end, I think once we were able to keep good pace, but we missed out just by one lap, I think.
Super aggressive at the start. The first laps, I mean, it was brilliant moves to come through. I guess you were sitting there on the grid, 9th place, just thinking, I need to pass these midfielders quickly and get back to the Mercedes.
Yeah, it was very important. You know, the degradation was pretty high today, so it was important to get a good start without damaging my car. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get that. It was quite chaotic, though. The first, yeah, you see the first lap.
You're right in the middle of it, coming through turn 1 as well, sandwiched between cars.
I was sandwiched there, and then I passed Bottas through turn 9, but he didn't show me when I was on the inside, and I think we made contact, and it's where I lost my front wing.
Yeah, 'cause it cracked at first, and there was rumors that maybe you were going to get called in to have the nose changed. It was going to be a safety thing, and then it flew off down the back straight. I wonder if maybe that's when the difference was from it was still okay, because you're still making passes with it damaged, and then it seemed like the pace dropped off a bit.
I think what I really felt it was on my second stint with the hard. That thing was pretty difficult. You know, I was struggling a lot for balance, because I picked up a lot of understeer, but at the same time, you know, I couldn't get any traction out of it. And yeah, that just made it a little bit harder for me.
I'd say your pace in that first stint was amazing. Considering you didn't have the end plate there, you were matching Lewis and Max out front when you cleared these guys as well. It looked like it was almost, there was a moment I was thinking, is it even better without the end of the front wing on there? So it was just
hundreds of thousands of dollars of time and work goes into it, and it snaps off. No difference.
Engineers at the factory pulling their hair out, like, no, this shouldn't be faster.
But then it was when you switched to the hards then that it wasn't working so well.
I think, yeah, because we had to compensate quite a lot, because we were missing quite a bit of aero balance with it. And I think once we figured out what to do, it was back to be all right.
Checo, the team secured the Constructors' World Championship, their first in the turbo hybrid era today, and on such an emotionally important and impactful day for the team as well. What does this mean for all you guys?
It means a lot, you know. It's been a very emotional weekend for the whole team. So to clinch it this weekend is super special, you know, to make him very proud up there. And for Helmut to see him up there in the podium is super, super special. So I really hope that now the Red Bull era starts and that we can be able to dominate the next few years.
For the time being, the one thing that you need to worry about is dominating Mexico in a few days' time, right? That's the focus. That's it now, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think, yeah, we need to be top form in Mexico and really try to maximize everything we possibly can.
One final question before you go. It's a 1960s day on Thursday in the paddock to celebrate 60 years since the first race in 62. Have you got your outfit sorted?
No, it's the first time I heard this, so I need to sort out some clothes.
Okay.
Are you sorted?
Yeah, mate, I've got outfits for the whole weekend. Also, before you go, I think we've got a little fan down there who'd love your autograph.
All right.
Could you give him your autograph? I'll take the microphone. Thank you so much, Checo.
As if you were not going to be sorted for an outfit all next weekend already.
Every day.
You called the theme, didn't
Every
you?
day. I what? I called the theme. Yeah, no. I wish. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Oh, what have I done? I'm sorry, Checo. It was only supposed to... I'm sorry. It was only supposed to be one. I'm so sorry. Thanks, man. Oh, we'll give him back the pen. Thanks for coming on. Cheers, man. Huh?
Are you Connor or Will?
He's been here, hasn't he? I know. No, it's me, mate. It's me.
He's so much like you.
Don't. Conor Moore's been here all weekend. It's been very, very funny. Let's have a look at who we're looking at. Alonso. The move between Alonso and Stroll, I think, is what we're going to look at now. Your reactions to this, guys, both in real time, and now you've had a little bit of time to give it a bit more.
This is interesting. I think Julian and I might differ a little bit on this opinion. So for me, I mean, obviously Lance is at fault. I think we all agree on that. But my point was this happened about halfway down the straightaway. There was still so much time. You saw the run he had. You knew that he was going to make that move. Why did he have to wait so late to react? That was a movement in reaction. It's exactly why this kind of rule exists, and that sort of move is illegal to prevent this sort of accident. And I know guys do it, but that early in the straightaway, you knew he was coming, move defensively sooner, and just make that not even, force him to the outside and make that not an issue.
I completely agree with that. And this you can see, Lance looking in the mirrors, and then it just turns at the last minute.
That's damning, the look in the mirror and then the move.
And it's not cool. What I would say is Fernando hesitates as he's going for the pass, and that's why I think they come together quite as they do, because Fernando goes for it and then he straightens up briefly and then he goes again. So there's a hesitation from Fernando. And I will also say many drivers are doing this in the field. Fernando did it to Valtteri Bottas and got a penalty for it in the end of Canada, weaving all the way down that straight, doing exactly that sort of thing. So
but
it's bad from Stroll.
Just because people are doing it doesn't mean it's acceptable.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's not good from Stroll, but other people do it. And even through the race, I mean, was it Lewis and Max, when Max was trying to pass Lewis and Lewis moved late.
Sort of moved.
And Charles and Max, Charles moved really late in towards the braking zone. People are doing it. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to stay to your line. That one's different because it's on the straight more. People still do that, and it's still, I agree with you that it's obviously Lance at fault.
Am I right in thinking that in IndyCar, you're not allowed to make reactive defensive moves? You have to preempt a defensive
Correct,
move.
Yeah, basically you cannot move in reaction to the car behind you. So basically once Fernando starts to move out of the draft,
Lance
you're
can't
stuck.
move.
Honestly, this is a great rule. It's what it should be, and it's what most drivers do drive to. And as soon as you start to do reactionary moves there, A, it's risky, and B, not only risky for a crash, but it's risky with the rules. And you start to then be impeding a car and changing of direction, and it's ugly. So I think that's what I used to drive to that pretty much anyway. If you want to defend, you see the guy's going to be alongside you, bam to the inside, cover the line, and then do it there. But other drivers are doing that more. So I think it's more like an overall issue that the drivers will speak about if that one was on Lance, which it was.
It's funny, you talked about the most damning evidence being you seeing Lance's head look in the mirror. For me, the most damning evidence was his radio transmission afterwards. And I actually give him some credit because he didn't say, I got hit. He didn't say, Alonso drove into me. He said, I crashed. And to me, that was almost admitting he wasn't going to try to, he wasn't going to try to cover it up. And in a sense, I think that was him putting his hand up and being like, yeah, I think I know what I did there.
I saw on social media, some people thought that Fernando's message saying very late move, when you could clearly hear how out of breath and shocked and quite emotional he was in the car, was an admission of guilt from Fernando, that he'd pulled off a late move on Lance.
No.
Those people have never driven a race car.
Yeah, clearly it's not. And actually, for that one for Fernando, could have been huge. So he would have been quite shocked at that as well.
You could hear in his voice. Lewis Hamilton, is he going to be quite shocked that he stood a chance of the win today, or quite shocked that he didn't take the win today?
I don't think he's going to be shocked
about
any of it.
Yeah. I mean, you're the one that called at the top of the show. He had Lewis Hamilton to win. I was texting him during the race. I had $20 ready to give him because I thought he'd called that one.
I felt pretty smug about 40 laps in there, and I've been saying, people say Hamilton or Mercedes are going to be winning all year, and I just went with it this time. And I just thought something can happen, something's in the air, and then Red Bull had a slow pit stop. Hamilton's out front. He's got 3 seconds. He's got good pace. I was feeling a little bit smug. It didn't pay off. Now you guys called it much better than me. But
I mean, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, who could have called that, you know?
It was such a mix-up. But how we got there was just so much more fun. Yeah, you called it. Whatever. No, I loved seeing his reaction after the fact, though. Disappointed not to win, but he knew he left everything out there. He didn't feel bad about anything.
The difference in pace between him and George as well, it just shows the level that Lewis is at right now.
Yeah.
Start of the season, shaky, trying a lot of things, question marks about him. Now he's getting so much out of the Mercedes. It's just going to be frustrating for him. There's another one that's just so close. But the Red Bull straight line speed is frightening against the Mercedes.
It really is. Why don't we hear from Lewis Hamilton on a day when he could have taken that victory. Ultimately, though, P2 is what he's going to have to go home with.
Hey Lewis, how's the emotions feeling right now? Like the fans, they went mental when you went into the lead during the Grand Prix. They were giving you the cheers afterwards when you finished second. I know you wanted to win, but kind of what are you feeling right now?
I don't know. I think I'm cool. I think I did everything I could possibly do today. I couldn't have. If I look at firstly from my perspective, I couldn't have done anything better, I don't think, today. I'm really proud of myself in that respect. I'm really proud of the team. The pit stops were great. The strategy was great. We gave everything we could. We're fighting against a team that's 10K faster than us on the straight and ultimately have won almost all the races. So for us to even be in the equation, I think is a huge positive. And lots of positives to take from today.
How much does it serve to improve the morale and really galvanise the team when you're making steps? I know you still haven't got to where you want to get to, but at least you're making steps every weekend, both.
We are, I think, yeah, for sure we are making steps, and I think it didn't really feel like we necessarily made a step through qualifying, but in the race we constantly are there or thereabouts. It's just, if we could pick up the 10K on the straight that they have, we would be right in the fight, and that's what we've got to work on for next year.
Thanks.
So Lewis Hamilton so close to competing or completing or not even continuing. Easy for me to say, it's been a long weekend. Continuing that run of a victory every season. He says it doesn't matter to him. Do we believe that?
I don't. I think he'd love the win. Hey, is Lewis Hamilton the guy who likes winning?
Yes.
Fundamentally. And of course, it's a nice stat. For someone that's had such a long career, it's a really cool thing that he's won in every year, because it doesn't mean he's won in the best car, but he's won when the car's not been very good. And this year, the car, it's all right, but it shouldn't really be winning races. No. He needs to have some magic for it to happen. And this one was so close. It's another one from the nearly bank. He's had a few of them now.
I think he does care, and I think he would have loved it. I don't think he's going to lose sleep over it if we get through Abu Dhabi and 2022 was his first winless season. He's won 103 other ones. Like he's okay, but you're right. I mean, you love to keep a streak going. It's not like he's going to be able to match that streak. He's not going to do this for another 20 years and have a chance to do it again. So it'll bug him in the moment, but I don't think it's a huge deal.
And I think overall the picture for Lewis is looking good, to be honest. He's really establishing himself back as the Lewis that we know and we've seen for so long. And there was just question marks at the start of the year when Mercedes form dipped. He's got a new teammate. George has done a fantastic job this year as well. But Lewis, I feel like he's just starting to get, well, he's been in his stride for a while, and he's putting it together more. And yeah, if he doesn't get the win, he's going to be back next year, hoping that the championship will be what counts.
In the meantime, George Russell slightly getting out of his stride. A mistake at the start of the race today. Carlos Sainz, when it goes wrong for anybody, it seems to go wrong for Carlos from pole position. Nerfs into the side of him. Carlos, coolant leak, and his day is over.
It's so bad. You think of the impact that Alpine had with Fernando Alonso, up in the air, back on the ground, into the wall, keeps going. Little love tap from George in turn one, out of the race for Carlos. It just seems so unfair.
Yeah. It's where you get hit, isn't it? That's the luck of the draw. I think for George, he wasn't trying to pass Carlos. He was trying to fight with Lewis. He was all eyes to Lewis. They were side by side. He had a little lock up, released the brakes, chucked it in, and then bam, Carlos is there. It was a quite a big error. He did drill into him pretty hard. But I think it came from a place of not trying to fight. Look, he's side by side with Hamilton there on the outside. Hamilton goes in deep, so George tries to release the brakes, and then Carlos at the same time is trying to switch back and fight with Max out front, and that's why then they come together pretty hard, and it obviously is an easy decision for the stewards, that one.
Yeah, it's a super tough one. I mean, obviously Carlos made it a pretty aggressive move going from the outside, cutting back to the inside, trying to do that over-under. George could have looked forward, maybe seen it coming, but at the same time, from his onboard, he's on one trajectory, and all of a sudden, the Ferrari does look like it just sort of comes across him. I understand why the penalty was applied, but it's a tough situation in turn one.
Yeah, it certainly was. Anyway, so that kind of put paid to George's day a little bit.
Well, a little bit, but a 5-second penalty's not so bad. It really put paid to Carlos. How unlucky is that?
Yeah.
Pole position,
No, exactly.
Great job yesterday, and bam, out.
Very, very true. And I guess Max Verstappen had an 11-second penalty. He came back from that.
Well, because the safety car actually kind of helped George too, right? It sort of closed that back up.
Exactly. Why don't we hear from Carlos Sainz? I doubt there will be a more disappointed driver in Austin, Texas today.
Carlos, obviously frustrating way to end the Grand Prix. Just talk me through your impression of what George did with you.
No impressions. I think driver mistakes are driver mistakes, and the problem is that I pay the price again, and it follows a bit the trend of the whole year with lap one that doesn't allow me to do the race and doesn't allow me to fight for the win, or doesn't allow me to keep learning from the car, which is extremely frustrating and disappointing.
How frustrating generally is it? Because you're not really getting the time on a Sunday afternoon to learn about it.
It's been so many races that I don't even complete one lap, so like that is also difficult to make a step forward on race days, which shows how frustrated I am and how my year has been, because the speed is there. It's just a very poor year in terms of lag and things happening.
Hard luck, thank you.
Okay, here we go. So Ferrari, a day of two halves then. One guy out at the first corner, but Charles Leclerc, P12 at the start, flew through the field onto the podium. He had a great day.
To be honest, I don't think he flew through the field. There was the first part of it. I was like, this is pretty bad for Ferrari. You got Carlos out, and Charles was just taking his time. He actually lost out a bit with that start, and then he took his time with the midfielders. When you saw Checo, his elbows out, was really putting the moves, and Charles, he doesn't have the straight line speed the Red Bull has, and he took a while, but then he came alive when the others pitted. Ferrari had decent tyre life today, which is good news for them. And the safety car obviously helped him out.
Yeah, hugely.
And he had a good race.
I think that was just it. The fact he was able to take care of those tires in that first stint, go as long as he did to really benefit from the safety car more than others. So some of the weaknesses that maybe we've seen out of that car and that team from a strategic standpoint, they called a good strategy. They ran them long. Charles took care of the tires. The car took care of the tires, and they benefited.
How did Ferrari think their day went? Well, we can hear from the team right now. Laura Winter is in the paddock somewhere, standing by with Laurent Mekies.
Well, I'm joined by Laurent Mekies, and it's mixed fortunes indeed for Ferrari. One car on pole out turn one at lap one, and then Charles Leclerc from P12 up to the podium. Just sum up how you're feeling right now in terms of all that's gone on this afternoon.
Well, you're right. You know, it's very, very mixed feelings. It was a bit of a shock to lose Carlos like that after a few hundred meters. It's quite rare to see this sort of things happening nowadays. So it's part of the game, but certainly it's a shame. It was a great opportunity, and I think we were all Red Bull, Mercedes ourselves, all close enough in terms of pace, and it would have been great to be in the fight also with Carlos. On the other side, starting from P12 with Charles, and at some stage fighting for P2, was a brilliant way to come through the field. So very well done to Charles for that. To the team, was a good way to progress through the field. I think at some stage he had also a good fight with Max. He tried very hard. I think we probably still are a little bit down compared to Max in this sort of race conditions, but certainly Charles gave it a good go.
That Red Bull straight line speed is something else, isn't it? I mean, the Mercedes were talking about it, your cars were talking about it as well. It's just so hard to keep them at bay, and you can certainly understand why they've wrapped up both championships here now.
No, you're right. It's not the first race where they are racing with a top speed advantage on all the other competitors. They managed to deal with that, and certainly when there is some fights like today, it gives them an advantage. It's something that you know, we always try to balance between the lap time and top speed, and I think the bottom line is they had a little bit of a pace advantage today, as for most of the Sundays this year, and they can have a very good protections and capacity to attack with their good top speed.
We're all really sorry to see Carlos Sainz, of course, out on the first lap. How's he doing? Have you spoken to him?
Yeah, of course, we have spoken. He's obviously frustrated and disappointed because, again, it was a huge work yesterday to get to that pole. Such a good moment, such a good demonstrations for the teams P1, P2 after qualifying. So it's certainly, we didn't want it to end that way, but, you know, he's a racer, we are all racers, and it will be just even more motivations for Mexico.
And just a word for Red Bull as well, who have obviously won the Constructors' Championship here on a weekend that means so much to them as well.
You know, it's certainly the right days to pay tribute to Didi Mateschitz. We all have him in our thoughts. His legacy that he's leaving for the sport is infinite, and certainly our thoughts are with him today.
And we look ahead to Mexico and see what Ferrari can do there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
We'll try
Laurent.
very hard there. Thank you.
Thank you to Laura and thank you to Laurent. Now, guys, as we've already heard from Checo and as we discussed a little bit today, sees Red Bull Racing crowned champions for 2022. It was really only a matter of time until that happened, but it's their first one in the turbo hybrid era. What kind of a job do you say they've done this year?
Oh, they've wiped the floor of the field. Well, they've done a few things right. They've obviously had a good transition from last year into this year and a whole new set of regulations. And they've developed really well through this year. Because at the start of the year, it looked like it was going to be Ferrari at the start of the season. Could Ferrari do it?
It did.
Everyone was still thinking maybe Mercedes with their new concept might come through, and then you had Red Bull. And as the season's gone on, it's like, well, obviously not Ferrari.
But they had their
obviously
reliability issues at the start. Max said there's no way if this continues that I've got any chance of defending my championship. Like, it didn't start great for them.
No, and that's the impressive thing. The pace was good, but on a par with Ferrari. The reliability was bad, but they fixed it quite quickly, and it seemed like they at least knew exactly how they could fix it and did after the second failure. And then just the development drive for them has just blown everyone out of the water. And they're also a team that I think title fighting last year was good for them to get the confidence and the intensity of that rivalry. And then they could put that into place this year. As I think Ferraris were sometimes a bit more a rabbit in the headlights this year, having not fought for a title for so long. Red Bull get a lot right, don't they?
Yeah, they sort of showed up to the first race of the season like, oh, we're actually fighting for this now. And it's not really an area they've been in recently. But no, I think the reliability is a huge part of it, right? If you look at kind of where, obviously, Max, Charles have kind of led their teams, where the second drivers, where Carlos and Checo have been, I think Carlos at the start of the season certainly had Checo's number, but the reliability just really killed them. And you think to wrap this championship up, still with so many rounds to go, even though Ferrari's been a strong competitor for them and maybe on average not too bad position-wise, the way the points pay out, it's just, it was an incredible effort from Red Bull, there's no doubt about it.
Been an incredible job from Red Bull Racing. They are world champions once again in 2022. Laura Winter has managed to find Christian Horner.
Well, Christian, I'm sure there are a lot of emotions right now. Congratulations.
Thank you
After
very
8
much.
years, you are Constructors' champions on what is a hugely emotional weekend for you guys as well, and one on which means so much. Can you try and sum up, I mean, imagine the melting pot of emotions right now?
Look, I mean, it's been such a roller coaster of a weekend, and especially, after the sad news yesterday. So to achieve this eighth after 8 years, it's been a long period. But the team's never given up, and I think Dietrich Mateschitz has been our inspiration in everything that we've done. He's obviously been the visionary that created all of this, and we owe him so much. That this championship, absolutely, we dedicate to him and his memory. And to do it the way that we did, I think he would have enjoyed that race today.
I was going to say, it was hard fought right to the end, and you could emphatically say, Max Verstappen, you are world champion, and we are world champions as well. That must have felt pretty good, and what a way to honour him.
No, look, it was the perfect way, and I mean, wow, what a race. I mean, it came alive after, unfortunately, a difficult pit stop for us, but, Max kept his head, he kept fighting. We had a great car today, and managed to make the pass on Charles, and then obviously late on with Lewis. So it was an exciting race, and, we had good pace. And Max, Max just did a wonderful job, and Checo again coming through with, damage on his car. Again, it would have been lovely to have him on the podium as well, but we're now focused on trying to ensure that he finishes second place in this championship.
I was about to ask you, he's heading to Mexico next. P2 is now a real possibility for him. I mean, P1, P2 in the Drivers and the Constructors' Championship, that is a season you could barely dream of.
Look, it is. It's an unbelievable year that we've been having. We've broken our own records. But it's testimony to the hard work that goes on, not just trackside, but from all the men and women behind the scenes, within the factory, in Milton Keynes that work the long hours, and they're the unsung heroes. They deserve all the credit in the world. And also our partners, our suppliers, everybody that's contributed to this performance this year is, it needs everybody to do their part, and that's what they've done.
And how will you both celebrate tonight and indeed remember Dietrich as well?
We'll celebrate in a real, true Red Bull fashion, as he would have wanted. We'll play the music loud, we'll let our hair down, and there'll be plenty of Red Bull drunk tonight.
I'm sure there will. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lovely words from Christian Horner. Right, we're going to really finish in one place, can't we, with Max Verstappen has now equalled Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel's record of 13 wins in a season. Obviously, they both did that in a much shorter season than we now have, but still, 13 race wins for the season. He can make it 16 by year's end. Do you think he will?
Out of 22 races? That's quite the stat, isn't it? We could get through 22 races, and by the way, Max will start all the next 3, obviously, as the favourite. If he's won 16 out of 22, that is some level of dominance. I mean, it really illustrates it. But it doesn't just show the stories of how he's won some of the races as well. Thinking Jeddah, thinking Miami, where he won, Spa coming through
Hungary.
14th. Yeah. We're listing like most of the races now. So it's been a better season than that level of domination would show, but it just shows how good Max has been, really, to win in all these different circumstances, I think.
Yeah, and I can't think of how much of a juxtaposition it is to the championship last year. I mean, it was literally tied on points going to the last race. It was one position was the difference. Now, locked up with 4 races to go, that level of dominance, like you said, but there's also a maturity out of him. And I don't know if that comes from winning your first world championship. I don't know if it comes from being another year older, but there were situations he found himself in that old Max might have buckled and made a mistake. This year, absolutely bulletproof.
Well, this is it, and this is something that I've loved about this season from the very first race, and it showed itself again today, was the racecraft between Max and Charles as the 2 standout drivers of the season, the 2 lead drivers of the teams that had the best cars this year. It's been a joy to watch them race, and we've had, and it doesn't always happen, in a Grand Prix season, that you get battles like this between championship combatants, race after race after race, wheel to wheel. You might get it a race or 2 races a year, but we've had it so often.
It was a throwback to the start of the season, wasn't it? This sort of stuff, the dicing, lap on lap, trading places. It was really cool to watch. I think Max is better this year than he was last year. Last year, I thought he was already immense. But he hasn't been tested in the same way.
For sure.
This is what I think we need to see maybe next year. If he has the level of competition from driver and team that he had last year, is he going to be making some mistakes again? Is he going to be as calm? Is he going to?
So you think the lack of competition has allowed him to drive more within himself and therefore not have to make some of those lunges, some of those aggressive moves, that being in an intense competition?
I don't think he's necessarily driving within himself. I think he's driving superbly. And he's almost allowing him to express himself because he has the best car. He has a very raceable car. And the pressure of a little mistake, he can overcome it this year. Whereas last year, when you have a rival and a rivalry as much as it was, and the championship's going down to the wire, if I make a lock-up here, I might not lose the race. I might lose the championship.
That pit stop today, game over last year. But today, and he said on the radio, they were like, so you got, X number of laps to pick it up. And he's just like, yeah, and I got to do.
That was the thing, something I really, really liked hearing from him. He got on the radio a little bit flustered, obviously, after that stop. And they said, it's all right, Max, long way to go. And he goes, I know.
I really think the Red Bull guys do a great job on the team radio to both drivers. Checo as well, when he was complaining about Charles going over track limits, and the guys like, no.
Yeah.
Just pass them on track.
Just do it on track.
They're good racers over the radio, and that dynamic, I think, is good. But yeah, I think Max is calm. He's been so good and clean racing and brilliant racing this year. Next year, maybe he'll carry it on and hopefully he'll be challenged more than he has been this time.
Bye, Brad.
Nice chatting.
Here's Max.
Didn't chat.
Congrats, Max. Does this win mean more to you, not just because you had to really fight for it today with a pit stop issue, but you've won the Constructors' Challenge for the first time in a decade, and obviously a difficult weekend for the team with Dietrich?
Yeah, it's been a tough weekend for us, and that's why we really wanted to do well today. And of course, it was all looking great up until that pit stop, and then we had to work for it a little bit harder than we would have liked. But luckily, everything worked out, and we got back into the lead with a few laps to go. It was, like I said before, tough weekend for us, and this is like, I think, a typical race Dietrich would have loved to see. We just pushed till the end.
Well, that's about it for this week's show and this week's weekend here in Austin.
Festivities.
Festivities, indeed. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great weekend, hasn't it?
I've loved it. The crowd have been amazing, racing in the US for the second time this year, but it's such a different feel and such a great atmosphere, and a superb race.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's just it. I mean, you saw the crowd. We had the buzz, the energy in this city all weekend long has been incredible. The only thing that maybe would have been a bit of a downer is if the race was a snooze fest, and it was anything but. So, top marks.
Brilliant stuff. Jolyon, you're flying home.
I am.
Hinch, we're flying to Mexico.
Viva Mexico.
Viva Mexico, where we will be joined by Lawrence Barretto, by Rosanna Tennant, and next year's AlphaTauri driver, Nick de Vries. And we hope you all will join us as well. It's a 1960s themed weekend. It's going to be great. Can't wait. Max Verstappen has won his 13th Grand Prix of the season. How many will he get before season's end? And can Checo make local hearts sing by taking victory in Mexico City? Join us next weekend, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. We will see you in a few days' time.